Ladies and gentlemen, we are just a couple days away from Bad Blood, another huge WWE premium live event coming right up. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Not just Bad Blood, but we had the debut of NXT on the CW. We had AEW Grand Slam all week. We're previewing the AEW 5th anniversary show this coming Wednesday. I'm Jason Marcus alongside Willie Throw. Will, I feel like I say this every week, but it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. There's so much content out there, and not just content, but good content. Everything is kind of hitting on all cylinders right now. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I would say overall 2024 has just been an awesome year to be a wrestling fan, if I could just say. I feel like
You can
there's a
say it.
lot of great things going on in the wrestling world, and we got another great show coming up this weekend. So let's get right into it.
Let's waste no time right into our Bad Blood predictions this coming Saturday. Another five-match card from Triple H. That seems to be the norm, Will, as you've pointed out a couple times throughout this show. So let's start with one of the biggest matches on the card. It is going to be a tag team match. It is going to be the Bloodline, represented by Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu, taking on the team of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns' first official PLE match since WrestleMania 40 at the beginning of April. It has been 6 months. Now, we had a couple more developments in this story this past Friday night on SmackDown involving Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Randy Orton and Kevin Owens making it very clear that neither of them are happy with Cody Rhodes teaming with Roman Reigns after all that Roman and the Bloodline have put them through the years. It culminated in a tag match on SmackDown where Randy and KO lost to the Bloodline after Cody inadvertently cost them the match, trying to help once the Bloodline's numbers got involved. This story is very much about Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Is he kind of taking a backseat a little bit right now? Because that's what it feels like.
This whole thing has just been really interesting, I guess. I do love the idea of this kind of super team of Roman and Cody, where it's kind of if you think like this time last year, the idea of Cody and Roman teaming up together, it just sounds absolutely absurd.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very much looking forward to this match. Uh, as far as who I think is going to win, it is infinitely more interesting if the Bloodline beats Cody Rhodes and Roman. I could see the obvious thing of just Cody and Roman winning. It's a nice big win for the superstars. They come together,
Mm-hmm.
take down the Bloodline. But if you're going into war games with a Bloodline versus Cody's team of people, you got to have the Bloodline have some momentum, which they've really been lacking
Mm-hmm.
since this new Bloodline has been formed. I feel like the last time they've really looked like a strong unit was probably like when Jacob Fatu debuted, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when they beat up Roman, it just felt like, it took Jacob Fatu coming back in order to take down Roman. Otherwise, Roman was just beating everyone's ass for, a majority of the time.
Right.
So I think the Bloodline needs a huge win. Now, what I'm debating in my head, this is actually, I would say, the toughest PLE to predict the main event for. I
Mm-hmm.
assume 80 to 90% chance it's going to be Punk and McIntyre. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's Cody and Roman. Like, you could, especially depending on what they have planned for this main event, this could
Yes.
easily main event the show as well.
Yeah, 100%. It could main event, and I think you nailed it. It all depends on what the plan finishes. I think it's about what they want to close the show with, quite literally. So I don't think it's going to main event. I do think they're going to main event with Punk McIntyre, just because it is Hell in a Cell, and that's kind of like what you built the whole pay-per-view, the PLE around.
Yeah.
So I think it'll open the show. As far as my official prediction for who's going to win, I agree that I think the Bloodline needs a big win. I don't think they're going to get it here, though. I have a hard time seeing them pinning Cody. Roman's not getting pinned, obviously. That's not happening. Roman's going to continue to be booked strong until WrestleMania. So, do you have if someone's going to lose, it's got to be Cody. And I don't see it happening. I think you've already done enough where no one believes Solo's a credible threat. I could very well see Solo eating the pin here from Roman. Um, but I do think there will be some developments. My prediction is Cody and Roman will win this match. However, maybe a top rope take will. I think the numbers for the bloodline will get involved as they always do. And at Bad Blood, we will see the return of Jimmy Uso.
Mm. I do like that. I do like Jimmy Uso returning. And maybe that is the reason why Cody and Roman end up winning, because it looks like the bloodline and the numbers game is just too much. I'm going to throw something at you.
Hmm.
Might be a top rope take. Would you be opposed to Jacob Fatu pinning Cody Rhodes, which once again kind of sows the seeds for Jacob Fatu overtaking Solo Sikoa in this new bloodline?
I don't hate that at
Solo
all.
hasn't been able to defeat Cody. He hasn't been
Hmm.
able to pin Cody. Finally, I guess he did pin him at Money in the Bank.
Solo
Um,
did, yeah.
Solo did, but I feel like since the momentum's kind of lost on Solo now,
Hmm.
you get Jacob Fatu that momentum by having him pin Cody Rhodes, and it really would put him at that next level, which I think they want to do anyway with Jacob
Hmm.
Fatu. So that's how I would see it playing out if the Bloodline were to win,
Hmm.
is having Jacob Fatu pin Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes does need another challenger
Yeah.
at some point. And it doesn't have to be immediately where Jacob Fatu challenges Cody, but it does. It's something for Jacob Fatu to have over Cody Rhodes in case they do want to do that match at some point.
Right. No, I think I like that idea too. I agree. I think if the bloodline is going to win, that's probably how they're going to do it. It'll be exactly that, Jacob Fatu pinning Cody Rhodes. Yeah, I very well could see that happening and that leading into War Games. I just don't think I really just don't see them giving Roman's team a loss immediately on his return.
I mean, it's two mega stars, so I get why you'd want to keep them looking strong, and it totally makes sense. Probably the toughest match, honestly, to predict on this card. But I'm going to stick with my bloodline
Okay.
prediction, just because if I were booking this, I would choose that as them as the winners to make it more interesting going
Yeah.
forward.
Yes, yes. All right. So we won first match down, and we're already disagreeing, which I love, which is good. It's good for the
Yeah,
brand, as the kids say. Uh,
exactly.
all right. So the other match that we have at Bad Blood that was kind of developed a little bit on SmackDown was for the WWE Women's Championship. So Nia Jax, we now know, will be defending the championship against Bayley at Bad Blood after Bayley defeated Naomi in a one-on-one match on SmackDown. Well, last week we had the whole debacle with Tiffany Stratton and the mixed tag match, and that led to SmackDown. But it's all kind of clear now. Bayley versus Nia Jax at Bad Blood. There's still a lot of heat going on. This Nia Jax Tiffany Stratton thing, which is a more interesting part of this whole story, um, has escalated a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be. I really thought they were going to milk this friendship and have them go after tag titles potentially and really draw out this whole disillusion of their friendship. But they are really pushing the smashing like the fast forward button on this, it feels like. And they are already like very, not even subtly, like Nia Jax is openly threatening Tiffany Stratton. So I think that's the most interesting part of the story. As far as Nia and Bayley, I think Bailey lost the title for a reason, and it's because she needs a new direction, and I just don't think she's entertaining as a champion. So Nia Jax is going to retain, probably with the help of Tiffany Stratton. What say you?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you said they pushed the fast forward button on this because I do agree, but at the same time, WWE loves telling these long-term stories.
Mm,
So if this were like in the past, I would have actually predicted Tiffany to make the cash in here because I just have no other like reason in my mind as to why this is on a PLE.
yeah,
Like this could have easily just been a SmackDown rematch to me. So I feel
that's
like
true.
putting this on the PLE, I was like, oh, something's got to be happening with this match. So I guess Tiffany Stratton cashing in still
Mm,
could be the case, but I do think you want to hold that off a little bit. I do think they could get a tag team championship match out of these two still because you
mm,
have Bianca and Jade as tag champions, which could lead to a future challenger for Nia Jax. I think
mm,
that's just a logical way to build up a new challenger and transition Nia Jax out of this whole Bailey Naomi stuff.
mm.
I'm gonna go Nia Jax with the win here. I don't see Bailey winning this title back.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say Tiffany Stratton holds on to her briefcase as well.
All right. What does Bailey do after this? What would you have her do?
Uh, I would love to see her in NXT, especially if they're really trying to make this a new kind of brand. And I think she could have a lot of dream matches with
Mm,
like Roxanne, Cora. We'll get into those later. And there's also Julia, Stephanie Becker.
yes.
I would love because usually like I just don't see her doing anything interesting on SmackDown. I think she could
Yeah.
really like revive herself back in NXT where she kind of made a name for herself to begin with. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
what I would like to see her do, but
I love that. I mean, Becky Lynch was on NXT. Wasn't Becky Lynch NXT champion
She was
for?
NXT champion, and so sometimes you need that. And it's
Mhm,
also great, like to have rotating main roster stars in
mhm.
NXT to have like a nice little run. And then when they come back on the main roster, it's kind of like, oh, you know, I
Yeah,
did kind of miss you. I'm glad to see you back on the main roster.
yeah. No, I love that idea. So those are the two matches on Bad Blood for SmackDown. Let's get into the Raw side of things now. Let's go with the one on non for a title. It is a grudge match between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Now, there's two Judgment Day matches on this Bad Blood card, and they both kind of were combined into a story on this past Monday Night on Raw, where you had the Judgment Day versus the LWO. Judgment Day picked up the win, and after the fact, the baby faces Damien and Rhea came out, and then they got their asses handed to them by this new current Judgment Day. Not too much happening on Raw as far as them, unless you can think of anything. But as far as Damien and Finn here, this feels like the bloodline to me, where I feel like Finn really needs the win, but I just don't see it happening. So I am gonna go with Damian Priest for the win.
Yeah, and I'm curious if you feel the same way about this, but I feel like these two matches are kind of linked in
Yeah.
where either Damien and Rhea get the win or Finn and Liv get the win.
Yes.
So, with that being said, Rhea and Damien did get the win at Bash in Berlin.
Mhm.
And I just think if they win again, that this new Judgment Day kind of blows
Mhm.
completely. Like it's really they look like such geeks if they just lose this whole entire thing to Priest and Rhea. At the same time, Priest and Rhea are the stars. And like we said before, it's better to just keep your stars looking great.
Mhm.
It just depends on how they feel about Finn and Liv. But I'm gonna go with the wild card here. I'm gonna go with Finn Balor to win. I think it's just I don't think this is over. I don't see this ending at Bad Blood. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see where these two go outside of this once this
Mhm.
is wrapped up. So I think Finn's going to get the win, and then eventually they'll have a rematch where Damian Priest gets one over on Finn Balor,
Here's
and obviously with Judgment Day interference,
right.
Finn Balor.
Here's my prediction. You ready? So Damien gets the win, very much like the bloodline. Judgment Day interferes. You got Carlito, you got Dominic. Well, maybe not Dominic because they're early in the night, but Carlito, JD, whatever. Right? Damien needs some help. Okay? Who's he
Okay,
gonna get help from?
okay, we're
The
in
guy not on
Atlanta.
the
No,
wh-
no, no, no.
oh,
Sorry.
we are in Atlantic. That's
Okay.
right. Quavo. No, I'm just
Metro Boomin comes out.
kidding.
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Jey Uso's not on this card.
Okay.
They've been teasing this Jay Rhea stuff? Is this the time where we have firmly put Jey Uso, who just won the Intercontinental Championship? Is this the time you put Jey Uso into the Judgment Day storyline and have him help Damian get the win over Finn?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think
Mm.
Jey Uso needs to start having a presence on these PLE pay-per-views. When was the last time I said PLE pay-per-views like they're the same thing. When was the last time we saw Jey Uso on like a big event like this? He missed SummerSlam. He
Well,
missed Bash in Berlin. Was he
I mean,
on he was at Money in the Bank in the ladder match. I
yes,
think it might have been the last time. I think
yeah,
we need to start getting some Jey Uso presence on these shows,
mm,
especially because of how popular he is.
yeah.
So yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I think that
So
would actually be a great way for Priest to pick up the win and then put Jay back into the Judgment Day stuff.
and then you can almost like Finn has a built-in excuse, right? In a way, or like Jey Uso
Right. A
came.
reason for a fight. And maybe,
Reason for a rematch, maybe. Who
I
knows?
would even because then you could also I could see it happening where Finn wins and then fights Jey Uso for the Intercontinental Championship. But I
Hmm.
guess that could happen anyway, even if he loses. Like he could be like, Jay, I'm coming after you. And then Jay's like,
Yes.
puts the title on the line anyway.
Um. Okay. So I have Damian Priest winning.
Yes.
You have Damian Priest losing.
I have Finn Balor, yes.
All right. So now to the other Judgment Day match. It is Liv Morgan defending the WWE Women's World Championship against Rhea Ripley with. Oh no, the title's not on the line, right? I don't think
No,
it
it
is.
is. It
It
is
is
on the
on the
line.
line.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But Dominic Mysterio is in a shark cage, which is a
Yes.
hilarious visual. I don't know how this plays into end the finish or anything like that. Um, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I think Rhea is gonna win. I think Rhea is gonna win the title here, and
Sorry, I just thought of a terrible booking
t-
idea. But I'm
and I
not gonna
can't
go
wait to
there.
hear it.
I'm not
Um,
saying it.
no, 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 you need to say it.
Oh my gosh.
I
Uh
think Rhea's gonna win here. I have actually an idea of where I think the next chapter is for everybody, and I think it starts with Rhea winning clean here, getting her big win against Liv Morgan, and I don't know what they do with Dominic after the match. Like he's got to do something after the match, right? Like he's not just gonna hang up there for the entire match and then at the end just like they let him go and he walks away. So I don't know.
yeah, well, I mean, I just see it playing out like whenever I heard Dom in the shark cage, I'm like, and this actually influenced my Finn Balor pick. So maybe, I mean, obviously, maybe they're trying to outsmart, the hardcore wrestling fan with this
Mm,
one. Every time I see heel in a shark cage, I'm like, well, he's going to find his way out, or he's going to find his way to help Liv win, even being up top on the shark cage.
mm,
So, I could see easily Dom sliding some sort of brass knuckles. I had another object in mind, but I don't think that's PG. Uh, so I'm not going to say it out loud. Let's go with the
okay.
brass knucks. uh, Give it to Liv Morgan, and I think Liv Morgan's going to walk out of here at the championship, and Dom's going to find his way to help out Liv
Mm,
retain, and then that could lead to more frustration with Rhea until they find a way to just not have Dom involved at all
yeah.
in their next match, which eventually Rhea Ripley will win. But I do see with Dom up on the shark cage, it's almost like a red herring. Like, oh
Mm,
well, Dom's in the shark cage. He can't get involved. He's gonna find a way to get
yeah.
involved.
100%. He's gonna drop something down. What like you said, whether it's brass knuckles or if it's
Something else. But
something
I do
else.
think there is there's a way to like spin this on, the smart wrestling fan like me who's actually an idiot. I think you could have Dom interfere, but then Rhea looks even stronger because even when Dom interferes, she just neutralizes Dom anyway and
Yeah.
still beats Liv Morgan. But then again, the reason why I don't like that finish is because it would make Judgment Day look like complete geeks, this new
Mm,
version. And
right.
especially if earlier Damian Priest wins and then they do that, then this whole new faction of the Judgment Day again, it blows. It's
Yeah.
horrible. And they would really need something to pick up their momentum again. And, I guess it's possible, but I would not care at all about this new Judgment Day if they come out both losing in their
Yeah.
matches.
Well, here's my prediction. You ready? So I am already said I think Rhea's gonna win. Real quick, I'm just gonna go on what I think happens after this. I think Finn Balor loses to Damian Priest. I think Rhea Ripley beats Liv Morgan. You have Rhea as your world champion, able to do her single star stuff where she, goes against the next big heel, whoever that is. I don't know. Um, and then I think you have Damian Priest challenge Gunther for the world title after his stuff with Sammy ends because there's a built-in story there where he kind of got cost by Finn Balor at SummerSlam. And I think it frees up the new Judgment Day of Finn, Dominic, Liv Morgan, Carlito, JD, all those people to go against the new Wyatt Six. And who made a story of people turning on their family. We got a teaser for Alexa Bliss making her return on Raw, potentially as part of the Wyatt Six. So that's the direction I think it all heads in.
I could see that happening. If this were a week ago, I would actually be in 100% agreement. But we'll talk about that Wyatt Six package because what was said in the Wyatt Six package was more profound than I think even announcing Alexa Bliss as a possible return down the line. So I think there's other opponents they might have in their sights out besides the new Judgment Day.
All right, well, we'll keep that as a teaser. Let's keep chugging along here for Bad Blood predictions. So, the other match that we talked about, all four matches on the card, we only got one more left to do. And that is, of course, the presumed main event CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, Hell in a Cell. We had a promo on Raw, the last one of this feud, inside the cell. What did you think about this promo from Raw, and what is your prediction for the match?
I thought the promo was fine. I mean, to me, it showed that there's not much else to do in this feud
Yeah.
except just get in the Hell in a Cell and wrestle. The only thing that popped me in this, and we'll get into it in the Bronson Reed Braun Breaker match, was I got to see some Warriors of Wrestling fellows as security guards
Oh,
in the
nice.
middle of the ring. So I thought that was pretty neat. And I was honestly so distracted by that I was just, I kept having to go back to the pro and be like, did they say anything? Am I missing something? And even Punk was like, I'm the voice of the voiceless, but I'm voiceless in this promo, and then
Mm.
continued to cut a promo. But you know, and look, Punk's my guy. But I did think at this point we're ready to finally
Yeah.
put an end to this feud. As far as who went, this is another, honestly, like it's not 100% on who could win. I'm gonna go with I'm always rocking with my guy CM Punk, and I do think Punk and Gunther is an exciting match potentially coming up. And even if they don't go that route, they could, now that Seth Rollins is back, they could quickly go into
Yeah.
uh Punk and Seth, which we'll talk about later. But I do think you either way you want the momentum on Punk's side coming out of this feud.
I
So I'm
actually
gonna
agree
go
with
with Punk.
I actually agree with you here. I think CM Punk is going to get the big win, and I'm going to change up my prediction a little bit from earlier. I think CM Punk's going to win. I had said that I think Drew McIntyre is immediately. I mean, not Drew McIntyre. Damian Priest is going to immediately go into a feud with Gunther. I'm going to roll that back. I think Damian Priest is going to go into a feud with Drew McIntyre, and I think you get CM Punk and Gunther, and
Yeah,
that
I could
so.
see that too. But again, they're teasing a lot of challengers for Gunther, so we'll have to see.
Right, right. So, yeah, again, I didn't think the promo was anything special. Like you said, there's not much more they do this to you. Just they have the match on Saturday. They'll have it'll be hopefully great, and then they can both move on to bigger and better things. But I think we are in agreement. CM Punk is going to walk out the victor. He's a bigger star at this point, and yeah. So let's
CM Punk, CM Punk. So I had to
yes.
chant.
Yes. So CM Punk, that's not the only appearance CM Punk makes during this week on WWE television. We're going to get to that in a minute. Let's first talk about some of the other stuff we missed on Monday Night Raw. Let's start with, we already talked a little bit about Jey Uso and how I think he's going to get involved in the Judgment Day stuff at Bad Blood. But he actually kicked off Monday Night Raw after winning the Intercontinental Championship last week in a very emotional promo. But I think the bigger story from that moment was Braun Breaker coming out and essentially turning face is what it looked like. He came out and basically said, "I'm congratulate you. You were the better man." There was no heel antics. It was a handshake, and he walked away. So listen, I am of the opinion that Braun Breaker is a much better heel than he will be a babyface. But I get that he's getting positive reaction, so they're just going to go in that direction. I don't think it's the best long term move, and I don't think he will be a babyface for long. But I guess I could see why he's doing it, but I don't know. I think he's a natural born heel.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see him as a guy who could go back and forth, kind of like Brock, honestly, where Brock can kind of go back and forth fluidly,
Right.
and it doesn't really matter. Just kind of whatever the feud calls for.
Yeah.
People, if he's a face or a heel, people are still going to do the dog chant, and
Right.
so I think that's where that comes into play. And I was just curious that they did this so quickly, like followed it up with the Gunther stare down backstage, and
Mhm.
that they teased him already as a world heavyweight championship contender. Because I thought that would go to the winner of Punk McIntyre, basically, would
Yeah.
then go and challenge Gunther. But I think they're going Braun Gunther after the Sammy match,
Oh, interesting.
like right away. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just put that in there as like just
Mhm.
planting the seed, and then they'll go back to it later. But yeah, no, I'm curious about that. I'm curious to see which they go with first. I kind of like that they did that because it keeps you kind of on
Mhm.
the edge of your seat as all right, if Gunther gets past Sammy, who's
Mhm.
next for Gunther? Is it Braun Breaker? Is it CM Punk? Who knows?
Yeah, I think my opinion on that is that they're teasing it. They're teasing it because they're going to get to it eventually, but I don't think it's next. I very much see this as a situation where Braun Breaker is in like a fatal four-way number one contenders match, and he gets involved with somebody else at the end of it.
Well, it's interesting because when Punk cut his promo on NXT, and this is what I kind of like about
Mm-hmm.
everything being linked, he mentioned that, this isn't a spoiler or any, I hope this isn't a spoiler or anything, but eventually I'm going to get in the ring with Braun Breaker. And
Yeah,
I'm curious to see if that is actually like a number one contenders match
yeah,
before Gunther, or if, they kind of keep that separate, or that's the
yeah.
world heavyweight title picture is Gunther, Braun, and CM Punk.
Yeah, I will say this about Braun Breaker, and then we can move on. They need to. I do think they need to be a little bit more cognizant about going forward how much he loses, because we've already seen him lose twice clean in not that long that he's been on the main roster. And yeah, you're trying to build him up, but like another loss to like CM Punk in a number one contenders match, like I feel like would really hurt him.
No, and that's actually I agree, and I could even see depending on which direction you want to go, because I actually don't think you need CM Punk to compete for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think it'd be great. I want to see Punk and Gunther at some point,
Mm,
but I could see a case where Rollins comes around
mm,
and costs Punk a match with Braun Breaker or
yeah.
somehow gets involved, and that kind of kickstarts their feud. I could also see it the other way around, which we'll get to later,
Mm,
where Punk costs Rollins in a match. But I do want to give a shout out to TikTok user Master of None 42 because he's doing this great challenge where he gives WWE superstars new theme music, and he
mm.
put Braun Breaker's entrance music to "Break Stuff" by Limp Bizkit,
Oh, I
and
love
it
it.
it fits too well. Like I'm almost like WWE put out the money, get
Yeah.
Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit, and I'll definitely have to share it with you,
Yes,
Jason.
please do.
It is awesome. Like I'm like firmly in this guy's corner where we need to get
Yeah.
Break Stuff for Braun Breaker.
All right. So after this opening promo, there was a couple other really big things that happened on the show. We mentioned Gunther a little bit, how they're really setting up all these different potential challengers for him and his world title. We officially got what feels like a definitive segment between him and Sami Zayn on Raw, where he beats up Sami Zayn after a promo, and he basically says, "If you want the match, you got the match." So he didn't say when, but as we fully expected in the world of pro wrestling, this whole holding off on a title match is never going to last for long. We are going to get Gunther and Sami Zayn for the world title. I think both of us presume Gunther will retain that championship. But any thoughts on this whole Gunther Sami Zayn stuff that's been going on?
Well, we kind of talked about it last week where we kind of expected it to be a Raw main event
Yeah.
versus a match on Bad Blood because we
Mm-hmm.
know Triple H loves that 5 match card.
Mm-hmm.
And God forbid he puts a sixth match on. He's allergic to the sixth match on a 5 match card. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it's going to get its own time in the main event. A main event that will be in a Raw where it's 2 hours long. So
Whoa.
how much time does this match really get? We'll have to see. But I am curious to see how it plays out in that 2 hour Raw because
Mm.
I want to know when it gets to next week, like what do they keep on Raw and what do they cut? Like, are we
Yeah.
ever going to see the Pure Fusion Collective ever again?
I think that's a valid concern, not because everybody is like clamoring for the Pure Fusion Collective. I
Right.
think it's quite frankly the opposite. But
Yes.
But there is something to be said about like you're gonna have to cut stuff, and like there's if you cut all the women's stuff, like there's gonna be a portion of the audience not happy about that. But what are you gonna do if you get better? I guess right. If your stuff
I guess
sucks, your
so.
stuff sucks.
That's right.
Um. Okay, so I don't have too much thoughts. We covered a lot of it last week. Gunther, Sammy. Gunther's gonna retain eventually and set up
Yeah.
all of his stuff. Sammy can do. I'm sure they have plan. I mean, Sammy and Kevin Owens always find themselves, so I'm sure they won't be too far behind.
They'll end up together at some point
Real
in the
quick, I
next
did.
few
Yeah,
months.
real quick, I did just want to mention this. Gunther beat Ilya Dragunov at a house show,
Mm.
and now Ilya Dragunov tore his ACL out 6 to 9 months, which you hate to see because again, one of those challengers I think people were really excited to see Gunther go up against in like a PLE. We're not going to get it for a while, looks like.
Yeah, I this is a shame for Ilya Dragunov because I feel like once he was gonna come back to TV, that was gonna be one of the stars they were gonna push.
Mm-hmm.
So, my best wishes go out to Ilya Dragunov, and I hope that when he comes back, he's better than ever, and they could just put a rocket on him
Yeah.
and really get him back into that mid card title picture, or
Mm.
even have him, throw it down with some main eventers on Raw. I would love to see that as well.
Throw it
But
down.
best wish. That's not an easy injury to recover from. So I
Mm.
wish him all the best.
We had a couple of heel turns on Monday Night Raw. We had the R Truth, the Awesome Truth reunite. R Truth back on TV for the first time since being squashed by Bronson Reed. He teams with The Miz against the Authors of Pain, and The Miz, who could have saw this coming, turned heel and walked out on R Truth. Who saw that coming? No, not me for certain, not anybody with eyes. Um, so I mean, again, Miz is an all time great, but again, somebody much better as a heel. This partnership was never meant to last. They got their moment at WrestleMania. it's been 6 months at least. They were both in need of a new direction here. Good for Miz. I don't know what this means. Like I don't, it's and again, like you said, with Raw going to 2 hours, like we're not getting a Miz R-Truth on a Raw. I can't imagine. So I don't know where this happens, but it happened.
Yeah. It's so funny because you're being really humble right now, but you should give yourself a little more credit. I mean, you did call this, and I was shocked to see online when people were like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't see Miz turn heel coming." Like I was like, "What?" Like
Yeah,
and
right.
it's like the second that they teased it, you were like, "Yeah, no, they're turning Miz heel," and I'm like, for me personally, I'm like, I don't care. Like it's sure
Yeah,
turn Miz heel, whatever. But the fact that people were like, "Oh my gosh, they turned Miz heel," it's like,
yeah,
are you
yeah,
kidding? Like in 2024 wrestling, the most shocking thing to you right now is Miz turning heel for
yeah.
the billionth time. Like, I don't
It's
know.
like it's like when people like if people were surprised when MJF became a bad guy again. It's like, yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. It's just his natural state. And you do make a great point there where it's like Miz turning heel on the last 3 hour Raw felt like it was Miz's like send off. Like it was like our truth send off. Like we're gonna see Miz in like 5 minutes of
Yeah,
Raw at most.
yeah.
But the way that Miz could turn it around actually
Mm.
and be on television is, I'll bring it back to the Wyatt Six package because there's two possible opponents that I think the Wyatt Six could go after, and neither of them are the new Judgment Day.
Oh, interesting.
I think one of them is the Miz with Final Testament because if you're keeping Wyatt Six face,
Hmm.
I think, and the whole video pack, you got to remember the video package they played. It was like, don't do this. You're going down the wrong path. Don't turn on your family.
Hmm.
And the Miz just turned on R-Truth.
Well, they
So,
family though.
well, we're going to get to the other opponent, which I think is more likely, but I do think if they're talking about people turning on, other people and they're
Yeah.
kind of saying, don't go down this path, and Miz went down that path, I think that's another option for them as
Hmm.
opponents. But we'll get into the other one, dude. Let's move on to the next topic, though.
Okay, so we had the Miz turn heel on R-Truth, and then the other thing that happened on Monday Night Raw, and this has again been one of my favorite stories to follow, is this whole stuff with the New Day. We had Kofi Kingston lose clean to Chad Gable, and that was kind of like, okay, sure. The more interesting story of the night was Xavier Woods defeated Rey Mysterio by cheating. Will he cheated? He took his mask and he beat him. And what a little scoundrel! Who is this Xavier Woods? He's not wearing matching gear. He's rolling people's masks up. He's degrading future Hall of Famers. He's being. I'll say it, Will. I'm not afraid. He's being a real bully, and you know what? I'm not here for it. But you know what? Kofi Kingston's a good friend. He is because he got him a number one. He got him an Intercontinental Championship match against Jey Uso next week. And God damn it, Will, if he, I swear to God, if he cheats, oh, it's getting my blood boiling. Oh boy, that
Why I
Xavier
oughta.
Woods. uh,
Um, yeah, no, I mean, I'll get right into it. I love this storyline,
mm,
and I do like how Woods played it off like it was an accident. Like he didn't mean to
mm,
take off Ray's mask. It's like how you
mm,
not mean to do. Like you clearly
yeah.
have to grab his mask off,
Mm,
but cheats to win. I think this was the better outcome because I speculated that would be the opposite, where Woods loses and Kofi wins.
mm,
And we get into it later where Woods actually inadvertently helps Chad win by hanging him up on the ropes, and
mm,
Kofi tries to go for Trouble in Paradise, but Woods holding him up on the ropes actually prevented Kofi
mm.
from hitting Trouble in Paradise, allowing Chad Gable to hit the Chaos Theory and get a win there. This is actually where I think the Wyatt Six stuff comes into play
Oh,
because I think the whole idea of don't go down this path, don't turn on your family has more to do with Xavier Woods than anyone else. I don't see
oh.
it going down with like the way they phrased it didn't seem like it was a new Judgment Day thing. They've already turned on their family. They've already
Mm,
went down that path. This is almost like a warning to Xavier Woods like, "Hey, if you keep going down this path, we're going to have to step in." And
right.
what I do like about it is that one of my favorite performances outside of this New Day storyline that I absolutely loved from Xavier Woods was that storyline with the original Wyatt family in 2016 when Xavier Woods actually showed depth to his character and
Mm-hmm.
was like, guys, we need to stop doing the New Day act. Like we have to take these guys seriously. When it was that great I just think back to that segment where the New Day dressed up as the Y family and
Mm,
Kofi takes it to Biggie or like cutting jokes or whatever, and Xavier was like, "Guys, what are we doing?
yeah.
Like we got to take this group seriously." I think he could have with this new Xavier Woods coming into play, he could really play off of that into this new Wyatt six. And I
Mm.
think we could have some compelling stuff going forward.
I
So now
agree
what I
from
expected from Wyatt Six, not to cut you off, but not what I expected from the Wyatt Six. I did expect them to go into a program with New Judgment Day, and for all I know, that could still be the direction. But
mm,
I do think this is another interesting opponent for the Wyatt Six.
I agree with you from a story perspective. My only hang up on that is like the Wyatt Six is literally like five or six people, and like Xavier Woods is at most a twosome at this point, and I just don't know how that plays.
Well, I think it's what's going to happen is he realizes how much of a threat the Wyatt Six could be, and he
Mm,
has to reconcile with all the people that he's wronged over the past few weeks. He's going to have to reconcile with LWO. He's going to
hmm
have to reconcile with Kofi, and then maybe Big E has to get involved, and
hmm
that could lead down the line. There's ways to go about it where it could match up right, but yeah, no, I mean I'm
What's
curious.
the
I was curious about it too, and I also the reason why I'm not totally sold on it is because I figured Wyatt Six were more of like a face group,
mhm.
so that's kind of why I went with the other like possibility of it being Miz and Final Testament. But like you said, the obvious thing is New Judgment Day going up
I like
against
this
Wyatt.
idea of doing something along the lines of where they don't actually get into the ring together. Like it's not Xavier Woods in like a 5-on-1 handicap match. But I do like the idea of almost doing a what's that one Christmas movie with Scrooge McDuck? Where they're or not Scrooge McDuck, that's the Disney version. Scrooge
What, a Christmas story?
Yeah,
Or
right.
yeah,
Well, where it's like they show him like what his life could be if he continues to go down this path kind of thing where like and they like force him to like make amends or whatever.
is it Christmas
Um,
story or Christmas Carol?
no, it's I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's either of them to be honest. Maybe it's a Christmas story with Scrooge. I
Yeah, it's
what
Christmas Carol. Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol.
Christmas story is the shoot your eye out kid.
Yeah, yeah. What? It's not. Scrooge McDuck is the Donald
That
Duck.
yeah no yeah it's just Scrooge. It's
Just
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Xavier Woods is Scrooge in this scenario, and the ghosts of Christmas past and present are the Wyatt Six, and they're like, "You little piece of poop! Like, what are we doing
There
here?"
you go.
All right.
I would love to
Any,
see actually that like Uncle Howdy Xavier Woods type sit down interview. I think that could
yeah.
actually be compelling stuff with just going through what Xavier Woods
Mhm.
has been feeling the past few months.
And Final Testament plays into this a little bit too. They were involved in the Kofi Kingston stuff, so there's layers to this. There's layers to this. Alrighty. Anything else? Oh yes, of course. The main event of Monday Night Raw that we haven't talked about yet. The last monster standing. Bronson Reed, Braun Strowman. A surprising win for Braun Strowman, if I may say so myself. Hell of a match. A lot of destruction, a lot of carnage in his way. But if this, of course, ends with a superplex off the top rope, which you kind of called a couple weeks ago.
Hey, you called the Miz heel turn. I had to
Yes,
call something too. And that's why you got to subscribe to Top Rope
that's
Takes
right.
Below because we will give you the information you need to know
We are
for
the pro
wrestling.
wrestling soothsayers. You want to know what's going to happen in the future? You listen to us.
Yes.
Um. Anyway, so
We're
that
really good about predicting Braun Breaker too. So.
you okay? Anything but Braun Breaker. We have no idea how we're booking Braun Breaker. They don't either, clearly. So they superplex off the top rope, implodes the ring, and we're like, "Whoa, my god! I've only seen this 4 times." Um, and it was a big moment. Everybody was like, "This is crazy," and it looks like they're both gonna get up though. They're like, "You can't keep these monsters down, right?" Because well, like not even a broken ring can do that. And then out of nowhere, Bronson Reed is like pushing himself up on these steel steps that just happen to be in the ring that they used earlier. And as he's like pushing himself and he's going to beat this 10 count, out of nowhere comes a returning Seth Rollins with a curb stomp to Bronson Reed on the steps. And that is it. Braun Strowman gets a 10 count. We have the return of the Messiah, the Architect, the any other nickname that this man has had in his career.
The
The
visionary, the
Visionary,
revolutionary. Yeah.
right? Yes, yes, yes.
You can go
Uh,
down the line.
Yes, he's back. Seth Rollins is back. Immediately going right into this new program. Well, new, but continuing his program with Bronson Reed. What did you think about this close to Raw?
Awesome main event. Again, like I said this last week, but I could watch Bronson Reed and Braun
Mm,
Strowman go at it like any day of the week. If they want to run this back some point in the future, I'm down
mm.
for it. It was funny because once I saw they didn't have the LED posts, I'm like, all right, tonight's the night. Like it's happening. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had the normal ring post. I'm like, this thing's going down.
Very
And what
observant.
was interesting is that normally with the ring collapse, you get like a doo doo, and this time it just had a doo and then it kind of stopped. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Like I
Yeah.
guess only one collapse, but that's cool. We saw the security guards get involved again, and we
Mm,
actually had a fan in the crowd who is another Warriors of Wrestler person that got the barricade collapsed on him, which I thought was a good justification for having security out there.
mm.
Braun Strowman coming off the top rope, my gosh,
Good
like
Lord.
like he barely had working legs during this match, and so for him to get on the top rope and jump on people and just to get through this match, well, incredible. And I did get suspicious when they threw up the 4-0 stat line for last man standing for
Mm,
Braun Strowman. Like he's never lost last man standing. I'm like, huh, that's interesting that they would bring that up. I guess it's just to put Bronson Reed over more when he wins. But then they had Braun Strowman win. And so
mm.
I'm like, okay, so they might make this a thing
Right, yeah,
where
like you
it's
can't beat
like
him.
you can't beat him in the last monster standing until they finally have that person, maybe it's
Yeah,
Obafemi down the line.
right.
But who knows? I do think it's cool that they're bringing back stats because I was
Yes.
really into that stat stuff when AEW introduced it, and then they got rid of it, and that kind of was like, well, okay, so wins and losses don't matter, like you said
They pick and choose in
before.
AEW.
They pick and choose, and they pick and choose in wrestling in general. It's
Yes.
just something I'm going to have to live with. I
Mm,
wish that people cared about stats more because I'm a big stats guy. I love
yeah.
stats. Anytime I do my commentary, I love little stats that I can
Mhm.
find about certain wrestlers. So, yeah, no, I mean, I thought it's cool that they kind of kept that intact. And yeah, Seth Rollins returning, I think is, great that they can finally get that going. I'm curious to see if the one thing I don't want, and I keep saying this, but I don't want Seth to just come in and beat Bronson Reed in like a less than 10-minute match.
Yeah. I
And
think Bronson's gonna win the first one.
you think so? Okay. I mean, I hope so. And I
Mhm.
do think if they have to pull the card, I know we don't want a lot of interference and stuff, but if they do have to throw CM Punk in this to kind
Mhm.
of cost Seth Rollins, then I wouldn't mind that either. But I think just giving Braun a nice, clean, strong win over Seth Rollins, it just will do so much for him. And it won't really hurt Seth Rollins, I think, as much as they would perceive.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm just excited to have Seth back on my screen. He was definitely missed a little bit, and yeah, I mean, listen, it's great for Bronson Reed in the sense that he actually has a meaningful program and something to do now. Um, I mean, like the whole Braun Strowman stuff was fun, but you knew that there was a shelf life to it, and I don't know. I thought it was good though. I want to just talk real quick about like, could you imagine being an indie wrestler and you're like, all right, so today on Raw, you are gonna catch a flying 400-pound man to the marsh. Good lord, what a life these people live. That was a crazy spot. I would not. I would be like afraid.
Thankfully, there's a ton of them. Like there was like a sea of them, so they could kind
Yeah.
of disperse the damage amongst themselves. But
Still, you
it
still
is a
a
lot.
minivan falling on you is
Yeah.
not fun. So that was Monday Night Raw. Will, any final thoughts on Raw before we move on to the other worlds of wrestling?
Well, I don't know. Did you see that graphic again for the PFR thing? PRF?
I
Did
did
that show up
not.
on
I
Raw
missed
again?
it again. I know.
Because it's funny. They showed it on Raw last week. They didn't show it this week. And in between that time, there was a report that Tony Khan tacked on
Mhm.
injury time for Ray Phoenix. So
Yeah.
I wonder if that's kind of an interesting little side story to all this. If they were imminent to make their debut on Raw, and now Tony
Yeah.
Khan's like, you know what? I'm shutting it down right here. You're gonna,
Yeah.
I'm at the
And for
injury
what?
time.
For what? Like, what's he gonna do with them? He's not gonna win anything. He's not gonna make them look strong.
Yeah, and it's clearly one way. I think it's only Ray Phoenix. I don't think he could do it for Penta. So, is he going to bring back Ray Phoenix begrudgingly, or is he just going to have him sit at home?
Yeah.
They just pay him the money. It's curious, but we'll
Yeah.
we'll be following that story as it goes on. in the
Yes,
coming
our
weeks.
we will keep our journalistic ears to the ground on that one. Okay, so that was Monday Night Raw. We talked about all the highlights from SmackDown. We had a big show this week, Will. NXT debuted on the CW, and it kicked off with Shawn Michaels and Triple H in the ring. It looked great. Like I was so used to watching NXT in the Performance Center to see them in an actual like full arena. It really like changed the energy to like the black and gold era. Like it really is starting to feel like it's picking up enough momentum where like this feels like 2016 again. I don't think the degree of wrestling is there yet, but as far as the energy, I thought it was great. Let's start where they kicked off the show with Roxanne Perez with a new championships, by the way, with new championships, by the way. The classic women's white strap, which has become the staple across all branding for them. Roxanne Perez defends her NXT Women's Championship against Julia in her first match on NXT, which I thought was such a crazy decision, in my opinion. But I get that you hot shot it for the big CW premiere. Um, they have a good match, but in the end, Will, again, who saw this coming? We got the return of Cora Jade, who came out and helped her bestie, Roxanne Perez. Um, Big Cora Jade guy. I'm very open about that. Happy to see her back on my screen. Her and Roxanne together are real life best friends. They're now both heels. This just made too much sense. Julia, you protect her, even though she wasn't going to win the women's title right away. You protect her by giving her a reason why she lost. I thought this was a hole in one booking decision.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was great. I kind of figured, and we talked about this, I kind of
Mm,
figured Roxanne was going to hold on to her title in some way because
mm,
she still has Stephanie Vaquer in the wings. And I could see that triple threat going down
mm,
with her, Julia, and Vaquer. And now we could even get Cora Jade involved if they want to
mm,
do some sort of fatal four-way action.
mm.
But yeah, no, it was solid stuff. I do love these new titles, by the way, because
Same.
mainly because of the new logo. I think the new logo is a home run as well. I thought when they brought back the black and gold for like when they were trying to remove the NXT 2.0 logo and brought back the black and gold, I was like, that's cool. But then as the weeks went by, it just didn't feel like NXT was the same black and gold that we knew
Yeah.
before they went to NXT 2.0. It
Mm,
didn't feel so it felt like they were just trying to do that for like a nostalgia thing, which
yeah.
is really not that big of a nostalgia. It was a few years prior.
Yeah.
This feels like a complete now. This is our new rebrand, the silver NXT logo, and it looks so good on these new championships. So
Mm,
uh, I love the new design. I think it's smart to have Roxanne still hold on to the championship. I mean, again, she's so young and
mm.
she should do a ton of stuff with this championship before moving up to the main roster. And even someone like Julia, like you could just have her not even win the NXT championship, just have a short stint in NXT and then put her up on the main roster as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I thought this was uh, good stuff all around.
My big concern about Julia is she's obviously a star. She looks like a star. She's great in the ring. I think she's going to run into the issues that a lot of other, unfortunately, I don't mean to say this disparagingly, but foreign wrestlers are going to run into, which is can she connect with the audience through a promo if there's a language barrier? She's got to get past that. I think she's somebody who will definitely benefit from having a mouthpiece. So I'm interested to see what direction they go because she is a star. But if you can't talk people into the building, you're really handicapped in this industry.
Yeah, she needs a better mouthpiece though than Funaki. Like I love Funaki, but it
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't fit the vibe of Julia. I think.
Let's fantasy book. Let's like give top rope take. Will who are we giving to Julia to be her whatever her
I
mouth?
mean, what's Shinsuke doing? He's on the couch.
Shinsuke can't talk either.
No, but he could talk. I think better than
Yeah,
Julia, and I do think you still want a Japanese presence talking for her. You don't
right.
want it to be like a Bailey thing where Bailey's just speaking for all these other Japanese wrestlers. Because then that what makes it worse than just having the Japanese wrestler talk is when you have a white person or not
Yeah,
even or just any other person talk for the foreign wrestler that
yeah,
isn't foreign.
hmm
Because Bailey's actually part Hispanic as well. So I'm
yeah,
not gonna but
right. I know what
I
you're
do
saying though.
think I do think it just makes them look worse. It makes it look like they're like underlings to
Hmm
the mouthpiece itself. So
Yeah.
I think you could do a couple things. You could also just keep her promos short and sweet. They don't need to be these complex promos. In
Yeah.
fact, I think there's something to be said about just like think about Asuka when she was on NXT. She didn't
That's
have a
true.
mouthpiece, and all she said was no one's ready for Asuka. That's all
Yeah.
she needed to say. And then she would just be this absolute killer in the ring. And people bought into that.
Yeah.
So if you do, it can work. You just have to make the promos short and sweet and not try to muddy the waters too much with these long, convoluted English promos. Or you could
Yeah.
just have her speak Japanese and we don't have to know what she's saying. It'd just be cool to see her speaking in her,
Right.
her language.
Got it. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree. I don't think it's necessary. I just think it would be helpful, but I don't even know how you do it. So I think it'd be cool if you gave her. All right, you ready?
Okay.
All right, I got a top rope take.
Yeah.
Give me a female WWE legend to come back and be her mouthpiece. I'll give me. You know what? I'll take Alundra Blaze to come back.
No,
No,
I know. She's for some reason, and this is no shade to
she's
Alundra
got
Blaze.
Japanese history.
She's got Japanese history, but every time she has this like on to drinks a little too much at the wine party energy to her every
Mhm.
time she shows up. I love her on like the pre-show stuffs, but she's
Yeah,
always just like you should there to have a good time. I don't think she'd bring that serious energy that
yeah.
Julia needs. Now Bull Nakano,
Hmm.
I wouldn't mind that.
Lita, even.
Sure. I don't I think someone like Lita would overshadow
Yeah,
Julia, though. I think you
yeah,
want it to be someone who can speak for Julia, but wouldn't overshadow her or make her feel like second fiddle.
yeah.
If Lita comes back, Lita's the star of that.
That's true. Anyway, so good stuff for the women here, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that happened on NXT, but the real other only other story is we have a new NXT champion, Will, and his name is Trick Williams, two-time NXT champion. He defeats Ethan Page in the main event, where CM Punk is the guest referee. CM Punk, predictably, not really doing anything in this match, but it was still fun. I have to say this though, and maybe this is a top rope take, maybe it isn't. Is the Trick knee the worst finish in WWE right now? Because it looks terrible, and it's I'm sorry, but like he's got to do better.
I'll come back to you on that one next week because I'd have to go really think about all the finishers in WWE. There's got to be one that's worse
The
than Trick
Rose
Knee.
Plant is up there, but
I don't think the Trick Knee is egregious. I think it's fine as a finish. As we've seen strikes as finisher. I do like a good strike as a finisher.
mm-hmm.
So I think from that perspective, it's fine. But yeah, it's probably one of the lower ranking strikes I'd
Mm-hmm.
see. But you know what? I'm happy that Trick won the title back. We as the credits were rolling, we saw CM Punk hit Ethan Page with a GTS, which like I said this before, but like you don't have to do CM Punk Ethan Page immediately, but if down the line, if you
mm-hmm.
have plans for Ethan Page, I wouldn't mind seeing a CM Punk Ethan Page match. And we also had a tease of CM Punk and Lexus King, which
Mm-hmm.
could lead into CM Punk's future gimmick of where he goes after past AEW stars, leading up to his match with Cody. So
Interesting.
that's my big top rope take, perhaps, is that when CM Punk ultimately turns heel some point down the line, he could go after all these AEW guys. He'll
Yes,
go after Sean Spears as well. Maybe he'll even turn on Jade somehow, and then we could get him against Cody Rhodes.
CM Punk, the new Elite Hunter 2.0.
Exactly. He's the lead hunter in WWE.
Yeah, move over
So
Frankie Kazarian.
exactly. Yeah, he kind of that gimmick kind of blew anyway. I was like, I'm not even gonna lie, I was kind of for that gimmick
Mm.
when he started doing it, and then when I realized he was just facing Brandon Cutler, I was
Yeah,
like, okay, then this isn't
yeah.
really an elite hunter thing. Before we wrap up NXT, just two
Mm.
quick notes. No Motor City Machine Guns. I think
Mm.
they're gonna save that for next week.
Yes.
But we did get a tease of a new debut in NXT of Delta. We saw her walking down the road in a video package and it led
Mm.
straight to NXT. So that's another woman that they can put in that title picture if they want to, or they could just kind of keep her away from it. Maybe she'll go after Kalani Jordan and be in the
Yeah.
NXT North American Championship picture. But shout out to Delta making her way to NXT.
I'm not familiar with Delta's game, so I'm excited to see her. But they, I mean, The one thing we'll say about this is the NXT women's division is so stacked. It's oversaturated, in my opinion. Like, there's too many
Yeah.
names that, like, I just don't. They got to draw a line somewhere.
Well, they're going to
So,
start. I think it's good to have an oversaturated NXT women's division because if they want to start calling up women, they can
yeah,
absolutely do that. Where it's not like they're robbing the
yeah,
women's division. There's been points in NXT where they've wanted to call up a ton of women, but then the problem is they'll have months where they have to kind of
yeah,
reinvigorate the women's division. What I like about having all these talents is that they could start calling people up, and then you have women ready to go in that main event picture
yeah.
uh, to start
And I think the main roster women's
pushing.
division really could use a little shot in the arm because, like, we've,
Definitely Raw. I mean,
yeah.
think about it. After Liv and Rhea, like,
Where's Rhea go?
where do they, whoever's the champion, who do they fight next? Because,
Yeah,
and it's probably going to be Rhea. There's Rhea after Liv doesn't have any credible challengers. I think you got to start calling up people from NXT to
yeah. Justice for
face
Shayna
Rhea.
Baszler. Her time is coming. By the way, mark my word. No,
Oh,
listen.
God.
You guys know. No one believed
All
me when I
right.
said Miz was going to turn heel. Shayna Baszler's going to get pushed soon. Triple H. She's a Triple H girl.
Sure. I mean,
Anyway,
might as well. There's literally no one else, and Shayna Baszler might be the only one with some bit of credibility left.
yeah.
But at the same time, like her being in Pure Fusion Collective is
She needs to get the
death.
fuck out of that. Sorry, my language.
Jeez Louise.
Feel really strong about Shayna Baszler. Okay, let's move to AEW. Will. Oh wait, real quick. Randy Orton, Javon Evans next week. That'll be bouncy, as the kids
Pumped.
say.
And they did bring up what we were talking about. Randy Orton was like, I am here to hit the greatest RKO I
Yeah,
could do.
yeah,
And they replayed the Seth Rollins one, the Evan Bourne one. They
yeah.
replayed a lot of his great RKOs. So I do think they're teasing an insane RKO next week. I'm looking forward to
I
it.
love that they acknowledge that that's literally the only reason this match is happening is
Yeah.
because Orton wants to do a crazy RKO.
Yeah.
All right. AEW, we had Grand Slam this past week in all three shows. And we have the fifth anniversary of Dynamite tonight, actually, at the time of this recording. But let's talk about last week. We had Grand Slam. It opened with Bryan Danielson defending against or not defending, just against Nigel McGuinness. Um, Good match. If you're a hardcore Ring of Honor guy in the early 2000s, I'm sure this did a lot for you. And if you're not, it was fine. And listen, Danielson's retiring soon. McGuinness came back for one more match. It was for them, and if the fans happen to enjoy it, then they happen to enjoy it. But this was for them, and it was a good match. But predictably, Bryan Danielson got the win.
Yeah. No, I thought this was great. I really enjoyed watching Danielson and McGinnis go at
Mm,
it, and I hope they have a match again down the line
mm,
at some point. But yeah, no, I thought it lived up to its expectations. I thought it was a fun match,
mm.
and this Danielson Okada thing,
Oh God,
it
don't get me
really
started.
causing some discourse online
Don't
where
get me started.
so the Continental Championship is on the line for the first 20 minutes. The AEW Championship is on the line for 60 minutes. Uh, I want to know what your thoughts are before I get into this
I'm
because you
gonna have
clearly seem to have a lot.
I'm gonna have a conniption. Um, okay. Listen. Why are we doing this? Listen. So aggravated because it doesn't make any sense. What? There's not even a story that I'm aware of as to why these guys are wrestling each other, other than they're two great wrestlers and it's a big show, and that's just at AEW's MO. And
Well,
I
it's
guess
the
it's
I'll give you this. It's the rubber match that they've had. Danielson won at Forbidden Door. Okada won at Wrestle Kingdom. It is a big match. I do think it is rushed to just throw this on the rubber match like a week in advance, but there is storyline purpose for this.
yeah, there's justification for it, but like last week he was just facing Nigel McGuinness, and there was like, did I miss it? Did Okada get involved?
No,
No,
no, no.
right?
I mean, yeah, there wasn't like a build up to this last week.
That's
It,
my point. Like we're like I just they do wrestling matches for the sake of doing wrestling matches because they're going to be good. And I get that. It's a pro wrestling company, not a sports entertainment company. But there is something, whether or not you agree with WWE style and they go too far in one direction, there is a reason that they have been successful for 40 freaking years. And it's because you have to put an emphasis on building up stories. And like, just because you're two great wrestlers doesn't mean that people are going to care emotionally. Why do I care emotionally about this match? Like, my biggest thing with AEW right now is they're splitting too many hairs. Like, we'll get into it with the Will Ospreay stuff, but he's simultaneously building up a thing with Ricochet and simultaneously doing a thing with Don Callis and the Young Bucks. Pick a freaking lane. What do things once at a time. They're rushing everything to try and get everything in. You got Moxley and Danielson, and I guess that kind of goes in with the whole Darby Allin stuff. But there's just everybody's got multiple stories happening at once, and there's something to be said for that to set up for future stories. But they're doing everything at once, and that is my biggest complaint.
Yeah. Do you have any problems with this stipulation?
Yeah, it's dumb. Like it just
Are you with the consensus opinion that this telegraphs that Danielson's going to win in an over 20-minute match so that both people keep their titles?
yeah, 100%. You're telling the audience what's gonna happen.
Okay. Because here's my top rope take.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you want to quell like this, I immediately thought the same thing. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you just announcing that this is going to be a 20+ minute match
Mm-hmm.
between Danielson and Okada? It
Yeah.
seems like an obvious thing. If Danielson's going to win, if the plan is, and I really hope, I hope they don't do a DQ.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really like that
It
would
would
just
be
frustrate me so much. That would just be so stupid. But if their plan is to have a clean winner, which AW has a good reputation of when they deliver matches like this, that they give a clean winner. Besides like Swerve and Okada earlier. But
they do a lot of 60-minute draws. Not a lot, but like they've done like at least four big ones.
uh yeah. I mean, what was the last 60-minute draw that they did? I know they did the 59-59 with Will and MJF, but I love
They're,
that because they teased it and then they didn't do it.
mhm.
So
I
I
mean, I don't know
mean,
if it's the last one, but I definitely know that wasn't Omega Danielson or
30
60-minute.
minute, yeah, 30-minute
Either
time
way,
limit.
continue.
I would love to see if this is really Danielson's last run in AEW, him beat Okada in less than 20 minutes and win the Continental Championship and hold both belts. Because you know what that does? That puts him in the C2. And I think Danielson, what is the one thing he's always wanted to do? He's wanted to compete in the G1, and he hasn't been able to do it. So why not just compete in AEW's version of the G1, the C2, and then you
Mm,
have multiple great storylines going in. Okada trying to redeem himself with the Continental Championship. Danielson being able to get all of his great dream matches in the C2. He was in the C2 last year, and he had a great run with Kingston
mm,
doing it. I think going in as the champion, it's really going to like add another level to it. I think it's a cool little angle that they could do where they could fit in all these dream matches, and you could have it be so that Danielson could get a couple of losses perhaps that could build to future AEW championship challengers. That's, I don't think
yeah.
that's going to happen, but I think the fact that people are already you're already making it seem like, oh, the fans know what's going to happen because you're putting the stipulation on the line. It would be cool to kind of turn it on its head and be like, well,
Mm,
actually, we're going to give you something that you didn't expect, which is
right.
Danielson with the belts. And he doesn't have to necessarily if you don't want to do that, he doesn't have to make it to November, December, whenever they do the C2
Yeah.
with the championship. But I just think it's something interesting they could do to kind of make people not feel as smart as they think they are. But if they want to just, make it obvious, then yeah, just do Danielson Okada in a 20+ minute match. Oh my gosh, what a complaint. I have to see Okada and Danielson for 20+ minutes. Oh, my life is so horrible.
I want to clarify that is not what that is not what I'm complaining about. I listen. I agree. It's going to be a great match. I'm just complaining about how we've gotten here. And I mean, and also isn't part of the storyline that the next time Danielson loses, he's retiring. So like, he's not retiring on a random episode of Dynamite when we've promoted his next match at Wrestle Dream. So
Right. Well,
Danielson's not
Okada, yeah.
losing.
That's why I don't want it to be a DQ finish because I totally can see it playing out where somehow Okada wins by DQ, and they're like, well, now Danielson, like the Young Bucks, and they're
Mm,
like, well, Danielson, you have to retire because Okada won the match. And
mm,
Danielson's like, that's not how I'm going out.
mm.
Let's do this real, no DQ. me and you, Okada, and that's how they do like their real rubber match.
Yeah.
But I don't like that either. I think it's clear that Danielson should win and it should be over 20 minutes. But the fact that they made it so obvious that that's going to be the case
Yeah.
is ridiculous, which is why I would think it would be cool to see some sort of swerve where we don't get what we're expecting with this match.
I don't think it's going to go more than 30 minutes because they have like already 5 matches announced for this card, and it's already a 2 hour show plus promos and commercials. So it's like can't go too long. Um, but yeah, anyway, like Danielson, great match against McGinnis. I'm excited. I want to clarify. Final thought. I am excited for the match against Okada. It's gonna be great. I'm just not a fan of the execution of how we got in here, and the stipulation just feels forced and unnecessary. But I'm sure they have a reason, clearly. Let's talk about the match that kind of ties into this whole thing because after Danielson faces Okada, they're promoting this big match at Wrestle Dream against John Moxley now because Moxley this past week on Dynamite beat Darby Allin in the main event in a hardcore violent match to become the number one contender. You had mentioned you think Danielson is going to go into the C2. I don't. And I think it's because he's retiring in Washington against Moxley in the main event. That is I will be shocked if that does not happen. It's the fact is because it's in Washington State, where he's from. I think against Moxley, who has been the ace of the company since it started 5 years ago. If you ever don't know what to do with the direction for the company and who to put the title on, you put it on Moxley and you'll figure it out. And I think that's what they're going to do here. It was a good match. You know, Moxley got the win against Darby. I think he's going to beat Danielson at Wrestle Dream, and then you have a built-in challenger again for Darby, and that's just how I see it all playing out.
Okay. Well, we'll have our predictions next week for Wrestle Dream going
Mm-hmm.
up on the Top Rope Takes channel. But I do think that's a good way to tease a Danielson retirement without actually doing it. I don't know what the plan is. You could be completely right. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they just want to give him one last run with the belt before giving it to someone like Moxley, who they could have the championship with. That's like a strong main eventer.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I'm skeptical is because in New Japan they have Kenny Omega returning with Hiroshi Tanahashi, which must
Oh,
mean Kenny Omega's healthy.
is he returning to wrestle, or is he doing like a ringside
I am
announce?
not exactly sure. I need to look more into it. I figured they were like tag teaming or something, which is a good way to kind of get
Yeah,
him eased back into the ring. But I just think Danielson doesn't retire without finally doing the definitive Danielson Omega match where there's a winner. And I
yeah,
do think in that match, that would be a great retirement match where they could give the belt to another big star, a big face for AEW,
yeah.
Kenny Omega.
I would be shocked to hear that Omega's wrestling in Japan because after all this time away, I would be flabbergasted if his big return was not on AEW.
I mean, it's Kenny Omega. I mean, dude loves
I
Japan.
know,
Like
but Kenny
it's
Omega's an
and he
AEW.
he's literally an EVP. He can do whatever he wants. Like
Well, that's
it's
fair.
you know. But yeah, no, I mean, no, just from an AEW perspective, I'd be kind of flabbergasted by that as well. But you still get the big return pop no matter when he returns in AEW, even if he has a run in New Japan.
Yeah.
So maybe he
Um,
returns that Wrestle Dream after
maybe
the match.
they possibly. All right. So we also talked a little bit about this earlier, but the Young Bucks defeated Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher to retain the AEW tag titles. Don Callis wanted Will Ospreay to use a screwdriver, and he just didn't do it because he's a good guy. And it cost him the match. We also have Will Ospreay versus Ricochet this upcoming Wednesday for the AEW International Championship, which many people are looking forward to, myself included. Uh, Again, I've said my piece on this. I think they're doing too much at once, but I'm sure it'll all come together. Is Ricochet winning the AEW International Championship tonight, Will?
No, he's not. And this is kind of interesting. Like man, like I don't know. I'm just the Ricochet thing is almost like a conundrum to me,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I don't understand Ricochet as like where he wants to be or what his ceiling is or what
Mm-hmm.
he's really doing. Because I think in AEW he fits better in that like environment than he does in
Yes.
WWE. But I still feel like in AEW he has a ceiling. Like I don't see him as an AEW world champion.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him holding on to the international championship if they want to at some point for some period of time.
Hmm.
I just feel like he is almost past the point of being interesting. I'm sorry. Like I like him in the ring. He's a
Hmm.
great in-ring performer, but I just and his everyone like they've referenced multiple times that oh Ricochet can cut a promo. Look at his backstage stuff with Will Ospreay, and I just don't see him on that level of like some of the great promos that AEW has, or
Yeah.
even just wrestling in general. So I would keep the title on Osprey and have him lose it to someone bigger. But if they want to move Osprey onto a bigger title picture and maybe have him being in the AW World Championship scene, then yeah, I mean, I could see them giving it to Ricochet, but I just don't think it's going to happen that way. I think Will Ospreay's going to retain, and they're going to have a great match. Like I'm
Yeah.
again, that's another thing. They're going to have an awesome match, but yeah, I mean, I feel like what when Ricochet came here, I thought the whole point was just so that he could have the Will Ospreay match.
Hmm.
And so now that they're just doing it, like I don't know what Ricochet does after this.
I have an idea.
Okay.
Okay, I'm full of them. I think Don Callis gets involved tonight, and we get the official full-on heel turn. Well, they're already heels, but they officially kick out Will Ospreay from the Don Callis family. I think he costs him the championship, and they give it to Ricochet. And I don't think it's an immediate transition. But we had somebody else debut on AEW this week. One Mr. Montel Vontavious Porter,
Okay.
MVP for those who are uninitiated. Um, and he came out and he was doing some stuff with Swerve and Prince Nana, and certainly there's something that's going on there. I don't know if Shelton, everyone's talking about the new Hurt Business, Hurt Syndicate in AEW. Presumably MVP, Bobby Lashley, Cedric Alexander still under contract with WWE, as far as I'm aware. I don't know what's going on with Shelton Benjamin, but I don't think that he necessarily has to be part of this group. If you wanted to add somebody to that group, Ricochet feels like a natural fit to that group, especially if you to give him make him more interesting, to make him turn him heel, put him with MVP and Lashley, have him be the AEW International Champion. We've always said Ricochet could use a mouthpiece. MVP's great at that. I think him and Bobby Lashley together is a very interesting dynamic. I'm not. I know that there's a lot of criticism out there about just like you know, arbitrarily pairing black wrestlers together, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. But I just think like it makes too much sense when he needs a mouthpiece, he needs direction. I think him turning heel would make sense. Bobby Lashley needs to fill out his ranks if he is coming to AEW. I think that would work.
Well, if you don't want to arbitrarily put black wrestlers with other black wrestlers, then why wouldn't you just have Ricochet pair up with Don Callis after he costs Will Ospreay the title?
Because I think he gets lost in the shuffle there.
Does
Because
he
he's
though?
already
If
got
they're kicking out Will
Takeshi.
Ospreay, then Ricochet would become the forefront of it. Konosuke doesn't move anywhere. And I think Konosuke isn't long before he splits from the Don Callis family. So you could really have Don Callis have Ricochet as a centerpiece. I really don't want to see MVP and Ricochet together. I really, because that would just feel so WWE to me. Like they're literally going to have a WWE faction if they have Ricochet, Bobby, and Shelton with
Well, I don't think
MVP.
Shelton's coming.
And also, well, here's the thing. I mean, if you watch the segment on Grand Slam, we'll transition into the MVP talk. He
Mm.
confronts Prince Nana and he literally says, if Swerve needs new management or whatever, and we could
Mm-hmm.
talk business, then, here's the card. I think the pairing is MVP and Swerve, and not because we're arbitrarily pairing black wrestlers together, because that's what they showed us on television. That's
Mm-hmm.
literally what the storyline is that Swerve is probably going to realize, why do I have this dancing guy in my corner when I could have real management with
Mm-hmm.
MVP? And we could kind of go down the line where Swerve has this new Hurt Syndicate with MVP Bobby Lashley, and then if you want as well, Shelton Benjamin. But it could just be MVP Bobby Lashley and Swerve. In fact, it could be a case where Swerve maybe denies it at first, has a match with Bobby Lashley, and then that could then lead similar to Danielson and Moxley. Like after their match, they're kind of tied in blood or whatever. They're blood
Mm-hmm.
brothers, and then they pair up together. And then that's another fresh tag team you could have for the tag division.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I also think that's the direction. I think just going back to the point on Ricochet is you're right though. Like, where does after he has this match with Osprey, where does he go? Maybe it is the Don Callis family. Maybe it is in another direction. I just him and the Don Cal. I don't know. Him and the Don Callis family just doesn't seem interesting because the Don Callis family hasn't been interesting in forever, in my
Well, I want to
opinion.
make it clear that I don't even think he's going to be in the Don Callis family. I think he's going to lose and then just keep being Ricochet. And that's like, because I don't think AEW feels like they have to do anything interesting with Ricochet except put him out there in wrestling matches.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just going to be a case where Will Ospreay beats Ricochet. Maybe there's some sort of Don Callis tension, but eventually Will Ospreay splitting away from the Don Callis family.
Mm-hmm.
Ricochet goes on to do his other thing, and then just on its separate accord, we have the MVP storyline with Swerve Strickland, where
Mm-hmm.
eventually Swerve joins Bobby Lashley. But I don't
Okay.
see Ricochet getting involved in either of those. I do think if you're choosing between the two, though, between MVP and Don Callis, I think Ricochet would be better off with Don Callis than with MVP.
Okay. What else from the show? Oh, also, Hulk retired the FPW championship, which is something that I had said should have been done.
Thank God.
Thank
Thank
God.
goodness. Honestly, shout out to AEW for finally doing this. I was literally like, thank goodness. I gave a standing ovation on my desk, like just being like, thank you. Like the FTW championship, just there's no, I'm not trying to disrespect it at all, but it just did not fit in the current state of AEW. We have too
Yeah.
many mid card belts. It just makes sense for it to go away. And I felt like it was a nice way to put a cap on this whole thing, retire it in Queens.
Mhm.
Really a great way, a great send off for the FTW belt. And now Hook can finally get out of that mid card picture. And, if he wants to go after mid card titles, that's great, but it'll actually feel like a
Mhm.
real mid card championship scene versus like this kind of vortex world that the FTW championship lived in.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the right call. I think everybody agrees on that. And yeah, that not too much else happened on this past week on Dynamite. The other two matches promoted for tonight are Hangman Page versus Juice Robinson, who Hangman's been having some stuff with Jeff Jarrett. And Dr. Britt Baker making her return to television and going up against Serena Deeb.
Yeah, I mean, fifth anniversary, it's great. I have a question for you about
Mm,
AEW later, but AEW did make its biggest signing of the year, Jason. Forget Okada, forget Osprey, forget Mercedes Moné. It was announced on Monday. Barstool Sports broke the news. The Costco guys are officially signed to AEW for one match. AJ will be stepping in an all elite wrestling ring, and they're going to bring the boom to AEW. Jason, who's their first opponent going to be? I'm speculating hardcore. I know you absolutely love the Costco guys. You cannot
uh-huh.
stop talking about them. You're in my DMs all the time, like, oh my gosh, the Costco guys, the Costco guys. So let
Yes.
me know who you think their first opponent's going to be. The one and only opponent
Oh
for
man.
AEW.
Well, hmm. Hopefully somebody violent. Uh, John Moxley? No. Honestly, like if we're being like legitimate, I don't know, Paul White, like the Big Show, just come out and knock him out. He was just begging, well, not begging, but he just came out of a report like asking to do more. Isn't he still under contract with them? Like he feels like somebody in that mold who could just come out and just one hand and that's it, and that's the pop.
You feel Paul White, first off, Paul White feels like someone who's going to show up on the Netflix debut of Raw in the crowd and be like, look who's in the crowd. It's
Yeah.
the Big Show. Um,
Yes.
but I have a couple options. The obvious one is that he retires Brian Danielson and wins the AW World Championship. But
Uh-huh.
maybe too big too soon. I won't go out on a limb there.
Yeah.
I do think legit. This is my actual what I want to see, and it was speculated on Twitter that this could be the case. How great would it be if AJ with Big Justice goes up against Christian Cage, a veteran presence who always goes after someone's dad? Well, he's going after the ultimate dad. And
Yes.
Big AJ. I think that would be good. And you also kind of like it's been a while since AJ's been in the ring. I think you do want a veteran there to
Yeah.
kind of be able to carry him through a match. And I think it would be like a fun little, one-off thing for them. And then Christian can ultimately win and then make fun of Big Justice or whatever, and then
Yeah.
Babyface comes in for the save,
Hmm.
and that'll be that. Or the only other option is because they've been doing content with them on AEW is somehow have the Iron Savages team up with AJ and go up against some other trio. I think they're turning Iron Savages heel, so I wouldn't necessarily
Yeah.
do that. And I think you want to have a bigger profile match for AJ if you want to capitalize on their one match. So that's my pick is AJ and Christian Cage, one off, maybe at Wrestle Dream. That might be too soon. Full Gear, because it'll be in New Jersey. Full Gear's in New Jersey, so
Okay.
it adds up.
Um. Wow. I'm so
I
knowledgeable
know
on
you're
this.
blown away. You're so excited for this. I am too, Jason, and I cannot wait to see the debut of AJ in AEW.
I
AEW
would
stands for AJ Elite Wrestling. You know that?
allegedly or late wrestling. um. um. I guess if they want to go in the tag route, you had brought up this tag team the other day. Is oh God, well I can't even think of their
The
names right. The
Outrunners.
Outrunners, yeah, is that the baby face that they tag with if they want to? Because they like to do that, right? In the celebrity spot, they don't necessarily make it a one-on-one match. Sometimes they put them in a tag or whatever. So
I
I
could
can
see
see.
that. That's the thing is the Outrunners are feuding with the Iron Savages, and the Iron Savages are like team, like they're cool with. We saw them pair up with Big AJ at All Out in the
Mhm.
pre-show. Like they went up to them in the crowd and did the bring the boom thing. So maybe they could do something where like AJ turns on them, and then that
Mhm.
sets up a match with AJ and the Outrunners versus the Iron Savages trio.
Mhm.
I could see that being the case. But yeah, no, I mean this is exciting times to be an AEW fan. It's an exciting time for wrestling,
Exciting
and it's
times
for
for.
people like the Costco guys. No
Oh
one
man,
else.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, listen, exciting times for mid card TikTok families is really what
They're a
they.
main event TikTok family. I'll have you know.
All right, okay. Uh, yeah. Anyway, I have no thoughts. I'm happy you're happy though. That seems incredible. Like,
I'm happy you're happy. That's a great way to cap off this conversation.
uh, what a week, Will. Bad Blood, AEW fifth anniversary, NXT's on fire. You have one more thing?
One more thing. There's a great way to end this podcast.
Okay.
It's AEW's fifth anniversary. So I'm going to put you on the spot right now to end things off. What is your favorite AEW Dynamite moment?
Wow.
Dynamite.
That's a tough one. Let me think. Favorite AEW Dynamite moment? I mean, if I'm being very candid, I watched a lot of it at the beginning from like 2019 to maybe to like 2020, 2021, and then I fell off because it was just not good in my opinion. So I'm really having to dial back. It's probably oh man. I really just nostalgic for like the first couple of years of it. Um I don't know, like the thing that stands out to me right now is the Cody MJF stuff. Um, the lashes, all the early stuff was really good to me. So I know there's been a ton and stuff that I'm missing, but on the spot I can't really think of anything. I was a big Cody Rhodes guy, still am a big Cody Rhodes guy, so probably something to do with Cody.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there's a lot of great early stuff with Cody Rhodes. I think about the undeniable or the what was it? Unreliable to undeniable promo.
Mm-hmm.
Um that is that's like a great dynamite moment. I could see anyone picking that as their favorite dynamite moment. I'll give you some time to think because the ones that stick out to me is definitely that end of 2021, early 2022, CM Punk MJF
Yeah. The
feud. One of them, their face to face,
the
is
promo
probably
where
that.
he like calls him the Miz or something, right?
Yes, like that face to face, like they're so great. MJF had some great back and forth, but even more so than that, what maybe one of my favorite promos in wrestling was the MJF roll of quarters promo. Because
Mm-hmm.
that really is like it was such a great commentary on wrestling where you have the ultimate bad guy heel come out and fans are still booing and whatever through this promo where he's pouring his heart out. And it's not till the end where you realize like, no, he's not gonna do some gotcha switch up on you. He's not gonna be like switch up on you and become the bad guy heel. He was just genuinely telling you how MJF became MJF. And it was so emotional. And I loved Punk's performance in it when he came out and was like, is it true? Like, is this
Mm-hmm.
stuff true? And MJF was just brought to tears. And the fans were kind of, that was like the first inkling of like a babyface MJF turn
Yeah.
where he just spoke from his heart. and fans were like, "Oh my gosh, like this cuts deep." And I even loved Shivani at the end being like, "I have kids with ADD, and this is
Yeah.
what he's talking about is no joke here."
Mhm.
So that is a special moment for me watching it and just kind of looking back and being like, "Wow, this is an incredible way to do this kind of promo."
Mhm.
And it told such a great story throughout that whole feud, leading into a phenomenal match that they had at Revolution, the dog collar match. So
Yeah.
that's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Dynamite moment.
Let's MJF singing with Chris Jericho. Great moment.
That was fun. That was probably my favorite pandemic moment, or
Yeah.
well, definitely a fun pandemic moment, but a controversial one at that. And go back to CM Punk, MJF stare down. My favorite moment was when CM Punk goes, "You gonna sing me a song, Maxwell?" that, that was so awesome.
let's
So yeah,
let's finish with this. You ready?
yeah.
AEW fifth anniversary. Give me your Mount Rushmore of AEW for the first 5 years.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
I
So
feel
this is,
like it's at the link. Yeah, go for it.
I think well, just bring it up. MJF is a lock for me. He
Yes,
has to be on
100%.
there.
Yes.
Like, he is just, we've seen like, it's the one star that was not popular on TV before, not shown on TV before,
Mhm.
stepped into AEW and became a superstar. And
Yes.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. So I think he has to be on
I think there's one other lock.
there. I, it's tough. I think I think I know what you're gonna say. I do think you have to put Moxley there.
That is what I was going to say.
Yeah, I think Moxley, even though he's not like one of my favorite guys in AEW, I think just him being there at the start and being like the anchor of AEW for the past 5 years, you have to give him a spot.
Yes.
The other two are tough.
Yeah. Other two I
And
think are up for debate.
I'm really itching to put CM Punk up there as like a joke.
It's your thing.
But there's an argument for it, but I feel like if we're talking about just the foundation of AEW, like you really can't really put him on there. But he had his time in AEW, it will always be remembered as like
Mhm.
some of his best work, in my
For
opinion,
better or for worse.
for better or for worse. And literally one of the best promos of the past decade is him sitting in the press conference railing the Young Bucks. Like that all out press conference might be legit and all like one of my favorite promos, and it wasn't even
Mhm.
meant to be a promo.
Um,
Uh, do you have any guys that jump out
I
to
would
you?
say definitely MJF and Moxley, I think, are undisputable. I don't think you can argue the other two. I'm tempted to put Jericho on there.
I was thinking about
I
that.
feel like he's kind of earned his spot. I mean, just talk about the consistency. I haven't been there from the beginning. He's the first AEW World Champion, so I feel like Jericho's got to be on there. Um, that fourth spot could go in a lot of other directions, though, right? Because you're
Yeah. There's like you could if you really want to talk about like what made AEW AEW, then you could. There's an argument for Cody.
yeah,
I would
100%. There's an
say
argument for Cody.
like he was really like a rock there for AEW that really got it off the ground. It was a huge part in even creating AEW. If
Hmm.
you want to go longer term, you could also make the argument for Omega.
Yep.
I think Omega's been a fundamental part of AEW, and in fact, the formation of AEW wouldn't have happened if um, Kenny Omega didn't make the decision to go over to WWE when his
Hmm.
contract was up in New Japan in 2018 or so.
I think you can make an argument for the other EVP, the Young Bucks.
But there's not
Um,
enough room. I wouldn't put an individual young book on there. You'd have to
no,
try to
but
fit two heads on one stone, and
that's true.
it might be a little tough.
But they're EVPs. They've been there the entire time. Have had some of the best matches in the company. You can't understate their importance to Dynamite. Um, I have a name though for a fourth one. I want to see if you have.
Okay. I mean, I was also thinking just because he's been awesome since his debut in 2021, Brian Danielson
Yeah.
has been a really like core guy there, and he's just a guy that you could throw out, have awesome matches. He's had some phenomenal matches in AW that will be remembered till the end of time. So I could, and he's a guy who stuck around. So that's why if we were gonna make this argument for even putting a CM Punk there, I'd have to put Danielson ahead of Punk
Mm,
just because of the consistency, I guess, in Danielson.
yeah. So I'm gonna end with this. My Mount Rushmore of AEW through the first 5 years is MJF number one, John Moxley, number 2 is a lock. Starts to get tricky after that, but I am going to go Chris Jericho. And then for my fourth option, you could put Cody. You could put the Young Bucks. You could put Bryan Danielson. You could put CM Punk. You could put whoever. I am going with Darby Allin. I think Darby Allin is number 4 as far as from the beginning, every week, consistent, big moments, big matches. Everyone else had their role, but he's been there for 5 years straight. No, really, no little time off. That would be my Mount Rushmore for the first 5 years of AEW.
All right. I'm going to go final Mount Rushmore here. I'm actually going to switch it up a bit. I do think it's going to be MJF Mox.
Mm.
I I do think Jericho should be up there, but recency bias is telling me Jericho should not be anywhere near the Mount
Yes,
Rushmore. So I'm going to go Mox, MJF, Omega, Danielson as my
fair enough.
Mount Rushmore of AEW.
I like it. I like it. And on that note, that is going to do it for this episode of
Oh,
Top. Whoa.
scratch it, scratch it, scratch it.
Oh,
I'm
oh.
taking out. I know we're trying to get out there, but we forgot one huge name that I think should be up there, maybe even over Danielson. And
Shane McMahon.
that way we have 4 guys who were there since the beginning. I'm gonna go Mox, MJF, Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page.
Yeah, how did we forget Hangman? Yeah. Hangman might have to get it over Darby in that case then. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, I can't argue that. He's definitely a fundamental person. Um, good stuff, Will. Anything else?
No, I mean definitely check us out on our socials. We'll have that in the description below. Huge event at Creative Pro Base Brawl, where we're going to have former Mets relief pitcher Turk Wendell at the show. He'll be in the corner of Tommy Dreamer and Brian Myers, who's one half of the TNA tag team champions. So that should be very fun.
Is there a faction named the Long Island Iced Tea?
Maybe. And who knows? We might get an appearance from the Long Island Ice Z himself. But
whoa.
I'm not. I actually don't take that for work because I don't think he's advertised.
Okay.
He's probably. I think he's overseas actually. So definitely not showing up. But maybe that is the Long Island Ice Tea.
Is he on the Mount Rushmore of AEW?
For his one appearance, or is that when he teamed up with Cody?
Yeah.
Maybe if he went a different route, he could have been.
Could have been. What could have been? Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Top Rope Takes. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you all next week.
Peace.